For 2020, the Tata Nexon has got a new look, more features, connected tech, and has also got a petrol engine update that now sees power go up to 120 horsepower. Question is, how does it compare to the other trendy, feature-rich, connected 120 horsepower petrol compact SUV, the Hyundai Venue? I'll leave it to you to decide on which is the better looking compact SUV, but you have to hand it to Tata for going the distance with this facelift. The curvy headlights of old have made way for more angular units, the smiling grille has been replaced by a chunkier and more upright arrangement, and even the bumper with that scuff plate is new. The tri-arrow detailing on the lower mesh does look very Mercedes logo-like, doesn't it? Blackened A and C pillars and new design alloy wheels are other details on the latest version of the Nexon, while the tail end with its Union Jack-like detailing on the lights and chunkier bumper complete the makeover. To my eyes, there's a mismatch between the new squared out front end and rounded tail, but all in all, the Nexon does look more butch than before. Butch is not a word you'd use to describe the Venue's design. Sure, the Hyundai's got the more traditional upright SUV shape and even well-defined wheel arches, but it doesn't quite have the physical presence of a Nexon. The two models are near identical in length, height and wheelbase, but the Nexon is significantly wider and that makes all the difference. Still, Hyundai's cascading grille, the split headlamp and that square LED DRL surround for the main headlight cluster mean the Venue won't be lost in a crowd. There's plenty to talk about the updated Nexon's cabin too. Now, when you get inside a Tata Nexon, as before, you get the impression of being in something fairly substantial. It is quite roomy as compact SUVs go, and that is and remains a key point of distinction in favor of the Nexon. Now, with this update, Tata has also made amends and improvements in terms of cabin quality. There are lighter plastics on the dashboard. This new gloss finish that comes embellished with Tata's new tri-arrow pattern really help the look and feel of things inside. With this update, there are also a few interesting and important inclusions. The most important, perhaps, to a lot of users would be the sunroof. Now, it's not the largest of its kind, but the fact that it's there is enough for most buyers. What I am personally not a fan of is the new digital readout. A reflective screen makes it hard to read the digital speed readout, while the bar-like tacho at the side isn't easy to refer to. The Nexon's 7-inch touchscreen isn't the best of its kind either. As mentioned, connected tech has made its way onto the Nexon 2. The new IRA system lets you remotely keep an eye on your car's movement among many other functions. Sadly, we can't comment on the efficacy of the system as it wasn't configured on our test vehicle. Shifting focus to the rear seat, the news is good. One of the highlights of the Nexon remains the rear seat experience. Now, I'm just under 6 feet tall, the driver's seat is set to my driving position, and as you can tell, I still have plenty of knee room. What's equally remarkable is that despite the incorporation of a sunroof, Tata has managed to package in enough headroom for someone as tall as me to sit in comfort. What adds to the experience is the seat itself. It's really nicely cushioned and offers great thigh support. The Nexon's width also makes it more accommodating for a third passenger. The Venue isn't as roomy, but there are reasons to like its cabin too. When you get inside a Venue, you will feel like you're sitting in a compact SUV. Now, the cabin isn't all that wide and there's not that much room between the driver's seat and the co-passenger seat. The dashboard also doesn't extend all that much far forward. However, on the plus side, the upright pillars and fairly large glass house make it easy to get comfortable behind the wheel of the Venue. What also helps matters is the logical layout of the dashboard. All controls fall easy to hand, the touchscreen is in clear sight, and you get these chunky knobs for the aircon controls. Hyundai has also done well to package in a lot of storage spaces across the Venue's cabin. There's lots of space for odds and ends, but what's it like at the back? At first glance, the Venue's cabin might not seem all that large on space, but it's when you get onto the back seat that you find that there is enough room. Now again, the front seat is set to my driving position. I have enough room to be comfortable here for some time. Where the Venue does lose marks is for the seat. It's not as sculpted or as supportive as the Nexons, nor is the cabin wide enough to seat a fifth person in comfort. Do note the Venue's cabin has been spruced up with a new D-cut steering wheel, and there are some added features like a tire pressure monitoring system as well. Talking equipment, both SUVs in their top-spec petrol manual trims get all the tech and comfort features you'd want. Auto headlights, sunroofs, auto climate control, rear aircon vents, keyless entry and go, and cruise control are features on both. The Nexon is the only one with driving modes, a digital instrument cluster and rain sensing wipers. Also unique to the Tata is an express cool feature that lowers all windows to release trapped hot air and maximize air conditioning, all at the touch of a button. A wireless phone charger is a feature exclusive to the Venue, while it's also the Hyundai with the slicker and larger 8-inch touchscreen. In the all-important matter of safety, the Nexon wears its global NCAP 5-star crash test rating as a badge of honor. The Venue hasn't been put through the test as yet, but does have a bragging right of its own with 6 airbags to the Nexon's 2. Impressively, both models get ESC, tire pressure monitoring systems and ISOFIX child seat mounts. There's nothing between the two SUVs in luggage room, with both offering 350 litres of space. The added features are all well and good, but if there's one thing that the Nexon needed more than anything, it was a spicier petrol engine. With this update, power from the 1.2-litre 3-cylinder Revotron engine is up 10 horsepower to 120 HP, though torque is unchanged at 170 Newton meters. So what has the extra 10 horsepower brought to the Tata Nexon petrol? Unfortunately, not all that much. From behind the wheel, it feels pretty much the same as the 110 horsepower model. Now, this engine was never known to be punchy, and that's something that stays true even today. But rev it past 2000 RPM and you'll get a pleasant, if unexciting, build of power. Drive modes are unique to the Nexon, but as before, Eco is best used when you need to conserve fuel. City is fine in town, and you do get the most out of the engine in Sport mode. On the whole, things have improved with this update, but not to the extent they could have, especially at low speeds. Low speed power delivery isn't all that smooth. It feels a bit snatchy at typical town speeds. There's a bit of a jerk, a bit of a hesitation that you'll just have to make your peace with. What also takes some points away is the clutch. Now, it is light, but it's not as progressive as it ought to have been. The Hyundai's 1-litre direct injection 3-cylinder turbo might be down on displacement, but pushes out an identical 120 HP and marginally more torque at 172 Newton meters. It's not perfect, but still feels the more complete engine. Like other small capacity turbo petrol engines, the Venue's 1-litre GDI unit also feels a bit out of its comfort zone under 2000 RPM. You have to be careful of which gear you're in. However, the light clutch and slick gearbox make it that crucial bit easier to maintain progress in stop-start conditions. Things do pick up once the engine gets into the mid-range. The engine feels its best after 2000 RPM or so. That's when responses improve, and you'll also note that there's plenty of poke in the mid-range. Now, this is not an absolutely free revving or quick revving engine, but you'll still have plenty of fun keeping the engine on the boil. The Venue is unsurprisingly the quicker SUV here. In general, the Venue also feels like the easier model to drive. The Hyundai Venue is a compact SUV that's really easy to get comfy behind the wheel of. The steering is light, maneuverability is good, and that elevated seating position and good all-round visibility also come into play here. Honestly, it's no harder to drive than any small hatchback. But is it fun? As Hyundai's go, the Venue is set up slightly on the firmer side and you can feel that stiffness at low speeds. However, when you do go faster, that stiffness in the chassis also translates to a nice degree of dynamism. Now, if only Hyundai could also dial in a bit of excitement into the steering as well. The Nexon has the edge in handling. The Nexon is pretty good fun in the corners. There's a nice fluidity at the steering and a good smoothness with which the Tata changes direction. There is a firmness to the Nexon's ride too, but show the Nexon a really bad stretch of road and it comes into its own. It drives as if it's almost built to take a beating. There's no all-wheel drive on either, but it's still the Nexon that feels the more SUV in the rough. To summarize then, the relatively tough demeanor, roomy cabin and fashionable looks are the chief reasons to buy the Tata. Opting for a Nexon today also no longer implies a compromise in equipment, though at 10.6 lakh rupees the range-topping petrol manual Nexon doesn't quite play the value card as before. There is still some way to go in overall finesse, but where the Nexon remains on the back foot is in its powertrain. The engine improvements are incremental and sadly uplift the experience by only so much. The Venue isn't the pick of the compact SUVs if space is a deciding factor, and at 10.8 lakh rupees it's the pricier model too. However, the extra money does get you the most sophisticated package. The Venue is big on features, but it's the more likable engine and general ease of use that really win it for the Hyundai. So the formula of a well-equipped urban SUV continues to work for the Venue. Question is, could its cousin, the Kia Sonet, build on the script and better it? That's something we are just as eager to find out.